Imagine this, a young woman cursed with a secret so dark, it destroys everyone she loves. Every man who falls for her doesn't live past 3 days. Not 3 weeks, not 3 months, but exactly 3 days. At first, you'd think it's just a scary story someone made up to frighten children. But this is her real life. And tonight, I'll tell you everything. Her name is Amara. On the outside, she looked like every other young woman in her village. She had a bright smile, kind eyes, and dreams of building a happy life. People described her as gentle and warm. But behind that smile was a pain no one could see. Because Amara carried something no one could explain. A curse, a shadow, a mystery, call it what you will. But one thing was clear, every man she became close to, every man she gave her heart to, died in exactly 3 days. And no one, not even the wisest elders, knew why. Her first love was Daniel. They were high school sweethearts, full of laughter and promises. Daniel was full of life. He always told her, Amara, one day, I'll make you the happiest woman alive. But that happiness never came. Because 3 days after their first night together, Daniel was found dead in his bed. No signs of struggle, no sickness, nothing. The doctor said maybe his heart had failed. But Amara knew better. Daniel was healthy, strong, and full of life. She knew deep inside, something was wrong. Her heart broke into pieces. She cried for weeks, blaming herself, asking the heavens why this happened. But as time passed, she told herself it was just a cruel accident. A tragedy, nothing more. Until it happened again. Years passed. Amara eventually met Michael. He was kind, gentle, and different from anyone she'd ever known. He loved her deeply and never let her cry about the past. For the first time in years, Amara started to believe she could be happy again. They spent evenings under the stars, sharing secrets, holding hands, and dreaming about the future. Michael even promised her a life of joy, free of pain. But 3 days after their first night together, the curse returned. Michael was gone. No wounds. No sickness. No explanation. He simply never woke up. That was when Amara noticed the pattern. Not 1 week. Not 2 days. Always 3 days. Always the same way. By the time it happened a third time, it was no longer grief she felt. It was terror. Amara realized that she might be the reason. She started to see herself as cursed. She began to avoid men, avoid love, avoid even the thought of marriage. Her friends at first didn't believe her. They said it was just life, just coincidence. But then they started seeing the truth. They saw how it always happened the same way. And slowly, people began to fear her. Soon, whispers spread across the town. Some called her a witch. Others said she carried a dark spirit that fed on men. Mothers warned their sons to stay far away from her. And men, no matter how much they admired her beauty, stayed at a distance. Amara lived in isolation. She didn't choose this life. She didn't ask for this curse. But she carried it like a heavy chain around her neck. She longed for love, but love had become her greatest enemy. And then, everything changed when she met Chike. Chike was bold, strong-willed, and stubborn. He had heard the rumors. He knew the whispers. Yet he didn't run. Instead, he looked at Amara and said, I don't care what they say. I'm not afraid of you, or your so-called curse. If death comes, let it come. I will not abandon you. Amara tried to push him away. She warned him, begged him not to get too close. But Chike was determined. He believed their love could defeat whatever darkness followed her. Their relationship grew, and for the first time in many years, Amara felt hope. But the people around them were terrified. Because they all knew what had always happened before. And everyone dreaded the third day. Day 1 passed. Nothing happened. Chike was alive, smiling, holding Amara close. Day 2 came. Amara barely slept, her heart racing at every sound, her eyes fixed on Chike's every move. Chike laughed and told her not to worry. But deep down, even he felt the weight of the curse pressing on him. And then came the third day. The entire town waited in silence, whispering, "This will be the end of him too." Amara's hands shook. She begged God, the spirits, anyone who could hear her to save Chike. She sat by his side all night, refusing to close her eyes. As the clock ticked, everyone held their breath. Was Chike about to meet the same fate as the others? Or would this be the day the curse finally broke? But what happened next was something no one expected. Did Chike survive the curse? Was Amara finally free, or did the darkness claim another life? Then Chike appeared, the one man who would not run. He stayed by her side even when everyone warned him. On day 1, nothing happened. On day 2, he was still alive. Then day 3 came, and the whole town waited. They expected the curse to take him, like it always did. But what happened next surprised everyone. On the morning of the third day, Chike woke up. He opened his eyes and sat up. He was alive. Amara could not stop crying. She pressed her face to his chest and laughed and sobbed at the same time. For a moment, she forgot to be afraid. People gathered outside their house. They looked at Chike like he was a miracle. Old women crossed themselves. Young men whispered that maybe the curse had ended. Children stared with wide eyes. Everyone wanted to know how this could be. Chike smiled weakly and told them, "I woke up. That is all I know." He hugged Amara and said, "I am here. I will not leave you." The town was quiet. They did not understand. They did not know this was not the end. The real fight was just beginning. As the sun moved across the sky, Chike began to feel strange. First, a small headache. Then a tiredness like he had run for miles. His skin looked pale. His voice grew thin. At night, he started having the same dream over and over. In the dream, a voice called his name from a dark place. It said things that made his heart ache. He would wake up sweating, certain someone had touched him. He told Amara about the dreams. She held him and said, "I will protect you." But protection did not stop the whispers. Chike said the whispers were not words at first. They were like the rustle of leaves. Then they shaped into names. His name. Amara's name. He told the elders, but they only shook their heads. This had happened before, they said. The curse does not only take life. It takes peace. Amara ran to the old shrine on the hill. She begged the priest for answers. The priest sat her down and told a long, quiet story. He said, "Long ago, your great-great-grandmother stole the heart of a spirit. She promised to love and then she cheated that spirit. The spirit was hurt and angry. Spirits can curse. They do not forget." He told them the curse was made for the women of Amara's family. The spirit said that any man who shares a night with them will not see the fourth day. The priest spoke slowly so the words fell heavy in the air. He said the curse had waited. It watched the family grow and pass from mother to daughter. Now it had returned in Amara. When Amara heard this, she felt cold. She had never thought her family could hold a horror like that. She pictured her mother, her grandmother, faces she loved, and wondered what they had carried silently. The town listened and felt a chill pass through them. The priest told Amara there was one way to end the curse. It would take a great price. She could ask the spirit to break the curse, but the spirit would want something in return. The priest said the spirit would accept only one thing, the woman's ability to feel love. Amara sat in the priest's tiny hut with the moon outside. She thought of Chike's smile. She thought of Daniel and Michael and all the faces that had been stolen from her life. She thought of laughter and late-night talks and promised futures that never happened. She asked the priest, "If I give up love, will I remember that I loved?" He closed his eyes and said, "You will remember the facts. You will remember names and faces. But the feeling, the warmth and hunger and hope, that will leave. You will go on living. You will not feel the pull for marriage or a child. You will be safe. No man will die because of you." Amara stayed silent for a long time. She loved Chike. She loved him so much that the idea of him dying tore her apart. But the idea of living without love also hurt. It felt like being hollowed out. She looked at Chike sleeping in the next room and whispered, "I cannot watch you die." That night, under a round, bright moon, Amara walked to the shrine. The whole town watched from a distance. Chike walked beside her and would not leave her. He took her hand and said, "I do not want you to lose yourself. But I will not let you go alone." She smiled through tears and let him sit by the doorway while the priest began. The priest lit candles and said old words. He told Amara to speak her name and the names of those she loved. Then she had to let go. Not with a knife or a cry, but by saying, "I give up my heart to save another." The priest made signs in the dirt and pushed smoke into the air. Amara felt a cold wind cross her chest. It started small, like a crack in the ice. Then warmth left her like a small bird flying away. She felt the memory of a touch, then the joy of a laugh, then the pull of wanting a child, all of it sleeping. She wanted to stop because it hurt, but she kept going. She kept giving part of herself until there was only a shape left where love had been. When the candle smoke rose high, the priest finally said, "It is done." Amara fell to her knees. She was not sure she could cry. Tears wanted to come, but they felt empty. She had saved Chike, but she had paid with the thing that made life bright. Chike opened his eyes and took a deep breath. The whisper stopped. He sat up, stronger than before. He hugged Amara and said, "You did it. You saved me." People cheered and cried. They called Amara brave and kind. They gave Chike food and praise. But Amara looked at them as if behind a window. She could see the smiles. She could remember the sound of laughter. But the feeling did not come. Flowers were pretty, but they did not warm her. Babies were sweet, but they did not call to her heart. The things that once would make her eyes shine only looked like facts now. Chike loved her for what she had done. He remained by her side, but their love changed. It became gentle and quiet. They were close like old friends who share a house. Chike cared for her like a man cares for his best friend. He held her when she needed comfort, and she gave him safety. But the deep, burning love that makes people dream and plan was gone for Amara. Years passed. People spoke of Amara with respect. They told her story to children as a lesson: love can be strong, but sometimes choices are stronger. Amara helped the town. She taught children to read, she tended the old garden, and she visited sick neighbors. People loved her for her kindness, not for romance. They treated her like a quiet queen. Still, every now and then, something small would remind the town of the old curse. A black moth would land on a doorstep. A lamp would blow out for no reason. Once, a young boy found a faded ribbon in the grass with Amara's name tied to it. Some old women would cross themselves and whisper, "Is it sleeping or only hiding?" Amara walked every day between two worlds, the life she had chosen and the life she had given up. She saved the man she loved. She saved the town from sorrow. But she also learned that some sacrifices leave marks that never fade. One night, long after the ritual, Amara sat on the shrine steps and looked at the moon. She closed her eyes and listened. The night was quiet. For a few seconds, she felt nothing. Then, just barely, like the faintest breath, she thought she heard a whisper. Or maybe she only wanted to hear it. She smiled a tiny, empty smile and felt a single question rise in her chest. Was the curse truly gone, or was it only sleeping, waiting for a moment when the world forgot to be careful? If you could choose, would you give up love to save one life? Would you trade your feelings for another person's safety? Tell us what you think. But what if the curse never truly left? What if the sacrifice only woke something far more dangerous? At first, everything looked like a miracle. Chike's strength returned, his laughter filled the air, and Amara believed her pain had meaning. She had given up her heart, but at least Chike lived. Yet, small things began to change. His eyes no longer held the same light. They were darker, sharper, as if watching something no one else could see. At night, he no longer slept beside Amara. Instead, he sat upright, whispering into the empty air. When she asked who he was speaking to, Chike only turned with a slow smile and said nothing. Soon, the whisper spread through the town. Not about Amara this time, but about Chike. The people said, the curse didn't die. It changed. 3 nights after the ritual, Amara woke to a sound that chilled her blood. It was Chike's voice, but layered, like 2 men speaking at once. His body was there, but the words came from somewhere beyond this world. Come closer, the voice said. Amara reached for his hand, trembling. Chike, it's me. Please, stop. But when he turned to face her, his eyes glowed faintly, as though a fire burned deep inside. And then, he laughed. Not Chike's laugh. A stranger's laugh, echoing across the room. The whispers that once haunted the men had now taken Chike completely. Desperate, Amara ran to the old priest. Her voice shook as she begged, tell me what I must do. The priest's face grew pale as he listened. Finally, he said, Child, you cannot destroy a spirit by sacrifice. You can only move it. When you gave up your love, you freed the curse, but it needed a new host. And it found one in Chike. Amara's heart froze. She had saved him from death, only to condemn him to possession. And worse, the curse was stronger now, feeding on Chike's living body. From that day, Chike was no longer a man. He was something else. Animals fled when he passed. The air grew colder around him. Candles burned out in his presence. And anyone who stared too long into his eyes began to weaken. First with headaches, then with fever, and finally with silence. The curse had found a new shape. Chike had become the carrier of death itself. Amara felt hollow. She could no longer cry, no longer feel the sting of heartbreak. Her sacrifice had taken all emotion from her. Yet she knew the truth, this was her doing. The priest gave her one last warning, if you wish to stop this, you must sever his bond with this world. No charm, no prayer can undo it. Only death will free him. Amara fell to her knees. To save the world, she would have to kill the man she had once loved. The night of the blood moon arrived. The sky glowed red, and shadows danced like spirits across the town. Amara walked toward the forest shrine, clutching a blade carved with sacred markings. Chike was waiting. His figure stood tall under the blood moonlight, his smile sharp, his eyes burning. Amara, he said, but it was not his voice. It was deeper, layered, endless. You thought you could beat me with sacrifice. But now, I am the curse. The earth trembled. The wind howled. Shadows stretched like claws. The voices of the dead seemed to laugh in the distance. Amara's hand shook as she raised the blade. She whispered, forgive me, Chike, but there was no forgiveness left. The spirit inside him sneered, strike, if you dare. But remember, even if you end him, the curse will not die. It will wait. It will always wait. Amara's tears would not come, she no longer had the power to feel them. Only silence. Only duty. No one knows what happened in those final moments. Some say Amara drove the blade into his chest, and Chike's scream carried across the land until even the animals fell silent. Others say she could not do it, that her empty heart spared him, and together they vanished into the forest, swallowed by the shadows. But one thing is certain, the curse was never broken. To this day, travelers whisper of a man and woman wandering the roads at night. His eyes glow like burning coals. Her face is beautiful, but empty, like a mask with no soul. They say if you meet them beneath the moonlight, death follows within 3 days. Some call them ghosts. Others call them demons. But those who truly believe, call them Amara and Chike. The eternal curse. So tell me, do you believe curses can be broken? Or do they only change their shape, waiting for the next victim? The story of Amara and Chike is not just a legend. It is a warning. A reminder that some sacrifices do not free us, they bind us even tighter. And sometimes, love is not the answer. It is the trap.